Hello everyone, welcome to EduRev. Now we know that verbs are tricky words, so there is no time like present to learn about them. We are going to teach you how to use verbs to describe actions happening right now. As you have guessed, today we are going to start the topic simple present tense. Now do not worry, you are smart and we believe in you. All of the verbs in the past few sentences that I've just spoken have something in common. They all are in simple present tense. Let's live for the moment and learn more about what exactly this is right now. But first, let's understand that what exactly are tenses. So, what are tenses? Now, tenses play a very crucial role in English language. It denotes the time an action takes place, whether sometime in the past, in present, or maybe it's going to take place in the future. That is, tenses, as you can see, are divided into three segments. We have your past tense, we have your present tense, and we have your future tense. Now, past tense tells me about what has happened, okay? That means something that is in my past. Alright. Present is going to tell me what is happening at the moment. That is at the moment. Past was had happened. Alright. So basically the past tense tells us that what had already happened. Alright. The present is telling me that what is happening at the present moment. And the future tells me that what will happen. Alright. Like for example, if I give you a scenario, for example, you have an exam tomorrow. So the past tense will be that you were preparing for your exam. The present will be that you are still preparing for your exam today and you are doing your revisions. And your future will be that tomorrow you are having your exam. So this is what is your past, what is your present, and what is your future. There can be n number of examples to differentiate between your past, your present, and your future. For example, right now, if you're studying, then your past might be that before studying, you had your breakfast, right? Your present will be that right now you are studying, and your future might be that after studying, you're going to go for a walk or a run. So that is going to be your past, present, and future. And this is exactly how the tenses are arranged. Now let's see why these are very, very important. Now tenses are the backbone of your English grammar, which denotes time reference. You will not be asked the definition directly, but tenses come handy when you solve questions on what your reading comprehensions, your fill in the blanks, your error spotting, your para jumbles. So that is why tenses are very, very important in your CAT examination, because a lot of things are based on what your tense is and your understanding of your tenses, right? So now the point is that in your examination, nobody is going to ask you that, all right, can you tell me like the definition for your tenses? Okay, nobody is going to do that to you, right? But what they are going to ask you is they are going to ask you about these simple tenses in what ways, in questions which they are going to ask in your reading comprehensions, in your fill in the blanks, in your error spotting, in your jumble words. So this is how they are going to test your knowledge in tenses. That is not directly but indirectly. That is why having a hold on tenses is very, very important. Now tenses define what? They define time of a verb, right? That is the past, present, or future, right? So tenses are going to define what? They are going to define the time of a particular verb. That is your past, your present, and your future, right? So let's see that what basically are verbs first of all. Because in the definition of tenses itself, we use this word that is a verb, right? So we should know that what exactly is the meaning of this word that is your verb. So let's move and see that what are your verbs. Now verbs are your action words, okay? So verbs are what? They are your action words in a sentence that describe what the subject is doing. So what exactly is verb? Verb is going to tell me that the subject, or you can say a person, a place or thing, whatever is in the question, what that particular subject is doing. Alright. So that defining word, the action defining word has to be your verb, right? Now, based on the formation of your past and past participle forms, your verbs are divided into two types. So your verbs will be divided into your regular verbs and your irregular verbs. Now, regular verbs will follow like a fixed pattern, whereas the irregular one are going to follow what? Your non-fixed pattern. Now, you do not have to worry about that, what is the definition of a regular verb or an irregular verb. The thing that is important in your curriculum, or you can say understanding of your tenses, is the form of your verbs, right? So you should know that what is the base form of your verb, you should know that what is the past form of your verb, and you should know that what is the past participle form of your verb. For example, you have these three examples which are displayed on your screen. Arrive is going to be your base form, right? So the past form of arrive is going to be arrived. I arrived at the station at so and so time. All right. I will arrive at the station at so and so time. Okay. And past participle form will be arrived itself. I arrived at the station and so time yesterday, right? Similarly, when we talk about the verb drink, we have three different forms. That is the base, past form, and past participle form. So drink, drank, and drunk. But wait a second. When you see the last example, can you see that the base form, the past form, and the past participle form are same? That is for put, all the three forms are same. This means what? This means that not all the verbs will change when their form will change. That is, the base, past, and past participle form of the verbs might remain same. So it's very important for you to understand that when we talk about verbs, there can be three different form of verbs, and you will eventually understand where you need to apply which form when you will learn a little bit more about tenses right now itself, and I'll explain you everything about in and out about tenses. So you will understand a little bit more that how you can use these forms of verbs there, right? But right now you just have to understand this one particular thing, that not always your base past form and past participle form is going to change. It might be same, alright, two of them might be same. For example, in your arrive, your arrived and your arrived, that is your past form, and your past participle form is same, right? Whereas in case of your drink, all the three forms are different. So you should understand that it might happen that all the three forms are different. It might happen that any two of them are same, or it might happen that all the three of them are same. So these are basically the form of your verbs. Now, because we have, a little bit idea of what are tenses, what are verbs, a little bit, because that is only what is necessary right now. Eventually, we will learn and build on the topics. But right now, let's go and let's understand that what are the various types of tenses. Alright, so when we talk about tenses, we know that there are three types of tenses, okay? Past, your past tense, your present, and your future. Now, in your past tense itself, there are going to be four different types of tenses. That is your simple past tense, your past continuous tense, your past perfect tense, and your past perfect continuous tense. Now, the thing is that you do not have to worry about what these tenses are, because we are going to explain it to you. But today, the agenda is not for the past tense, it's for your simple present tense. So let's see that in your present tense, how many types of tenses are there. Similar to the past tense, we have four types. That is your simple present tense, your simple continuous tense, your simple perfect tense, and your simple perfect continuous tense. So the agenda of this lecture is to make you comfortable entirely with this form of tense. That is your simple or your indefinite present tense. Alright. So do not worry if you do not know how the other tenses work, like what is a continuous tense, what is a perfect tense, what is a perfect continuous tense, because we will provide you lectures with that as well. And if you wish to, practice some questions, get some docs, you can visit EduRev. There are plenty of tests and docs related to the topics itself. But today we are going to wrap up with the chapter that is your simple present tense. Now we know that in your past tense we have four types of tenses. Similarly, in your present also we have four types of tenses. And in your future as well, we have four types of tenses. All right. So you have simple, you have continuous, you have perfect, you have perfect continuous. All right. So that means in totality, we have 12 different forms of tenses. Okay. But these forms of tenses are very, very simple. You do not have to worry that there are 12 tenses. You have to learn about 12 tenses. No, it's simple. So let's get started with the tense that we need to do today. That is your simple present tense. Alright, so let's see that what exactly is your simple present tense. Now, as we know that in grammar, verbs and are words used to refer to actions or states, right? We have learned this. Now, in English, verbs can be used in 12 different types of verb tenses. We have seen that how this 12 came. There were like your past, your present and your future. And in all the categories, we had what? 4 tenses. Now, the tenses of a verb in general terms tells you at what period of time something happens. The verb tense we are going to focus on right now is what your simple present tense. Appropriately enough, verbs in your simple present tense refers to an action that is happening right now. So that means all the actions that are happening right now in the moment, right? For example, in your sentence, the cat sleeps. The verb sleeps is in your simple present tense. So this is your verb which is in which form? Your simple present tense. That is, the cat is performing that action right now. So obviously do not wake her up. Now there is this example for you people to solve. That is, she dash the marketing department. Manage or manages. Now when you apply the word manages, that makes much more sense with this sentence. Now, why we are using an S and why we are, not using a word which does not have an S, the rule for these things will be taught to you in a little bit of moment. But you can see that she managed the marketing departments. She manages the marketing departments. You can clearly see that the word manages define the simple present tense in a more elaborated way. Now let's move forward to when do we use the simple present tense. That is, what are the rules to use your simple present tense, and in that rules itself we are going to explain that why we have used S with your she, and if there would be them, so like they manage the marketing department. So in case of she, if there would be they, so it will be manage. So these are some of your rules which will come in a little bit of moment, but let's see when do we use the simple present tense now. Alright, so let's see when can we use the simple present tense. Now in general, we use simple present tense for two main reasons. Number one, we use it when describing an action or state that is happening right now. So any action that is happening at the moment, when that thing is happening, we use what? We use simple present tense to define it. For example, the sentence, the airplane flies. Now, it basically means that the airplane is flying right now as we speak. Similarly, another example, in the sentence that the cheese smells like a garbage dump, is describing that the cheese being in a stinky state that is happening right now in this moment. When using verbs, this way it is common to use what? Stative verbs in the simple present tense. Now, what are stative verbs? These are the verbs that refer to states rather than actions. For example, this music sounds terrible, right? Generally, non-stative verbs are used in your simple present tense when a person is telling a story or writing a narrative. For example, a friend might tell you a story like this. Okay, picture this. I am at the concert, music plays, people dance, everything is great. Suddenly it rains and I'm wearing my nice shirt. I run for cover. It's a close call. However, we do often use both stative and non-stative verbs in your simple present tense to state facts because they are true right now, right? As in, cats have whiskers, or I play what? College basketball. Let's do one example. He dashed for the post office. Similar to the example that we did on the previous slide, here we have what? A singular thing, right? He. So that means it will be what? Works, correct? If it had been like they, that is plural, it will be what? Your work. I hope you understood this. Now let's move on to the next point of when can we use the simple present tense. So the second is we can use your simple present tense We can use the simple present tense to refer to as an action or situation that happens regularly. Now the first one was that an action or a state that is happening at the moment. The second one is that an action or situation that happens regularly. So that will be what? That will be when we use your simple present tense. So there are 2 points when we use it. The first one was that when the thing or the action is happening at the moment, and second is the action or situation that happens what? Regularly. For example, the sentence that Jessica exercises at the park expresses the thought that Jessica makes a habit of exercising at the park on a daily basis, right? Similarly, the sentence the moon looks orange sometimes, right? It is stating that the moon has an orange color every once in a while. Something to keep in mind is that if a sentence is describing a temporary action or state that will continue into the future, it's not using a simple present tense verb. For example, now see this sentence. My hamster is getting really fat and I'm brushing my teeth. These sentences are not using a verb in your simple present tense, right? Instead, these sentences use verb phrases that are in verb tense, and this is what is known as your present continuous. That means something is in continuity, the present continuous tense. For example, you dash swimming twice a week. So you go swimming. If it would be they, so it would be you go swimming twice a week. Alright, so let's see how can we form simple present tense. Now, out of all the different verb tenses, simple present tense is relatively easier to formulate. The first general rule is to simply use the root of the verb, which is the form of a verb you will find if you look one up in our incredible dictionary, to form the first and second person constructions. For example, I walk, you dance, we run, they exist, and river flow. The second general rule is that you add an s or es at the end of your root when used with nouns or pronouns in the third person singular. Typically, you would add an es when the verbs end in your ch, your sh, th, ss, x, or z. Right. Now, this is exactly what we were studying earlier, that when we can add s or es. Now, if the verb ends in a consonant that is followed by y, we change the y to I and add what? Es to it. For example, your try becomes your tries. Now, if the verb ends in a vowel followed by a y, we simply add an s. For example, say becomes your says. Here are some of the examples of simple present tense verbs used with the third person singular nouns and pronouns. For example, with he, we use s, right? This is exactly what we were studying earlier. She, with she, we are using s, right? And this is exactly what I taught you earlier when I said that she manages the marketing department, right? It hisses. My dog whines. So I hope you have understood this. Now let's move on to the next topic and understand how to make simple present tense negative. Alright, let's see how we can make simple present tense negative. To make the simple present tense negative, we use the phrase do not followed by the root verb except in the third person singular, where we instead use does not followed by the root word. So we use do not, or we use what? Does not followed by the root of the verb. The contractions, that is don't and doesn't, can also be used. So for do not we can write don't, and for does not we can write doesn't. Alright? Yes. Here are some of the examples of simple present tense in the negative. That is, I do not like seafood. So you can see that we have applied do not. Next is, she does not speak Italian. So you can see we have applied does not. Then we don't live in Boston. So we have used the contraction of do not, that is don't. Now a common exception to this rule is our good friend, the verb be. When using the verb be, we conjugate as normal and put the word not after the verb. For example, I am not a doctor. We are not friends and he is not angry. So this is how we do with the verb be. That is, when we use this particular verb, we conjugate as normal and put just the word not before the verb. Now, a less common exception has to do with helping verbs. While helping verbs aren't often used alone, they come before the word that is your not, right? When used in the negative. Now, check out these examples. I need you to open this jar because I cannot. She wants to eat the last cookie, but she knows she shouldn't. Now, let's see how we can ask a question with the help of a simple present tense. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's see how we can ask a question with the help of simple present tense. Now, the formula for asking a question in simple present tense is we need to put do or does, then we need to put the subject, and then finally the root form of the verb. For example, do you know how to bake a pie? How much does Pauline love pie? For example, to ask, we use ask or do not ask. And for he, she, it, we says asks or does not ask. Then to work, we say for I, you, we, they, work or they. Like for example, I do not work, you do not work, they do not work, they work, etc. Right? For he, she, it will be she works, she does not work, it works, it does not work. Right? When I use to call, so it will be I call, I do not call. We do not call. You call, you do not call. For he, she, it will be she calls. She does not call. Similarly, it will be he calls or he does not call. And similarly, it will be for it as well. Lastly, for use, we will say I use, I do not use. Similarly, for you, we, they, as they use, they do not use. And for he, she, it will be she uses, she does not use. And similarly for he and it. Lastly, for to have, we can say that you have, you do not have, we do not have. Similarly for other as well. And for he, she, it will be she has, it has, he does not have, etc. So I hope you have understood how we can ask a question with the help of your simple present tense. Now, we need to see how we can formulate the structure of your simple present tense. Now, the structure of simple present tense can be understood by analyzing the positive, the negative, interrogative, and negative interrogative forms of your tense. Have a look at the following simple present tense structure chart, which is displayed on your screen, so that you can understand easily how it works. Which is to say that, like for positive, we can use your subject, your verb in the base form or third person plural form. For example, you look beautiful. Similarly, for negative, we can use subject, then we would use do not or don't or does not or doesn't, the contractions, then the verb in the base form, and then the third person plural form, that is, you do not look beautiful. For interrogative, that is when we need to ask a question. It will be do or does, then subject, and then the verb, that is, do you look beautiful? And similarly, for negative interrogative, it will be don't or doesn't in place of do and does, your subject and your verb. And it will be, for example, don't you look beautiful? Now, in all these, you can see that we have, subject, we have verb in a particular format, and then for interrogations, we have do or doesn't, and for the negative part of it, we have don't and doesn't, right? And for the negative as well, we have don't and doesn't. So these sentences and the formulation, the structural formulation of your simple present tense is very, very easy. And these examples tells us that, right? Like for example, in your positive, we have that you look beautiful. So we are giving a compliment, a positive one. In your negative, they are saying that you do not look positive. So we are, just telling or stating something that is negative. Lastly, for interrogative, we are saying, do you look beautiful? That is, we are asking a question to the other person that do you look beautiful? And then negative interrogative is that we are asking the same question to that person but in a negation form, that is, don't you look beautiful? I hope you have understood how we can structure the simple present tense. Now, to wrap up with this lecture, let's see some of the rules and points to remember when using the simple present tense. Okay, so let's see the rules and points to remember when using the simple present tense. Now, in order to use the simple present tense accurately and effectively, there are some rules and points you have to keep in mind. This is because of the fact that the sentence or the context would not make sense if the verb does not agree with the subject in the sentence. So the first thing that you should understand about simple present tense is that the verb mostly appears in your base form. So the verb will mostly appear in which form? In your base form. And this changes when a third person pronoun or subject is used in the sentence. In that case, the verb used should be what? Your plural. I hope you people have understood everything we have discussed about simple present tense. You can now go to EduRev and attempt the test to understand this chapter in depth. You can unlock all the logged videos, documents and tests for CAT with EduRev Infinity Plan and ace your exams at less than 80 rupees per month. Thank you.